Hello, everybody. We are going to be continuing to convert percents and decimals and fractions. We're going to kind of combine them all together um, to see if we can move from percents to fractions to decimals and models and all in between. So we're going to be on page 10 today. I'm just going to turn the lights on. Sorry for the delay. All right. So we're on page 10 again. And if you have a highlighter, it might be a good idea to take it out. So if you have a highlighter somewhere in the house, you might want to pause it and go get it. If not, we can use a pencil. That'd be fine. All right. So we're going to do the front page of this, page 10 together. And then I'm going to ask you to try page 11 on your own. And we're going to go over page 11 together in class tomorrow. So what we're going to do is we're going to be given one bit of information on this piece of paper. For example, in the first row, we're given the percent. We're going to find everything else, the fraction decimal model. Second example, we're given the fraction. We're going to find the percent decimal model. So we're going to find whatever's missing for that particular row. But before we start, there are 9 numbers. And again, I keep going back to these 9 numbers because they're very helpful. These 9 numbers might help us today as we delve a bit further into percents. So up here where it says percent, I'm not sure why it does. We're going to write those numbers. And that's 1, 2, 4, 5, 10, 20, 25, 50, and 100. And then I'm going to use my blue pen to find the pairs. 1 and, and 100 go together because 1 times 100 is 100. 2 times 50 is 100. 4 times 25, it's like quarters. 5 times 20, that'd be nickels. And then 10 and 10, that's dimes. Here we go. Let's use these numbers to help us out. Okay, the first one, 23%. Well, to write that as a fraction, we know that percents are always out of 100. So I'm going to write that fraction 23 out of 100. Now the next thing I have to think about is, can I simplify that? Well, can I divide 23 by 1? No. 2, well, I can divide 23 by 1, but we really never use 1. 2 wouldn't work, 4 wouldn't work, 5 wouldn't work, 10 wouldn't work, 20 wouldn't work, 25 or 50 or 100 wouldn't work. So we're done. That's all we can do. Now to write it as a decimal, 23 hundredths as a decimal is just 23 hundredths. The other way you can do that is to move the decimal point 1, 2 times in the percent, and you get 23 hundredths. Now for the model, to do the model, that's where I'm going to use the highlighter. I'm going to shade in 23 out of 100. There are 100 little squares. I'm going to shade 23. So I'm going to do 2 rows of 10 and then 3 ones. So here's 1 row of 10. Let's see. I'm angling the highlighter just a little bit so it doesn't cover too many squares. And then 3 here. There's 23. There's 23. If you don't have a highlighter, you can use a pencil, kind of shade them in, but you don't have to shade it like completely, and you don't want to waste the entire pencil. So looks pretty good. So these are 4 different ways of showing 23%. All right, let's check out number 2. All we have for number 2 is this little fraction here. Now, this fraction's out of 25. We know that percents are always out of what? 100. So we want to get this fraction to be out of 100. And so how can I get from 25 to 100? Because we have to do that to write the decimal and the percent, and really the model as well. We'd have to multiply by 4. And I'm thinking quarters here. There's 4 quarters in a dollar. 4 times 25. We're going to do 24 times 4 as well. That's going to get us to 100. All right, and then we'll do 24. I'm just going to do that off to the side real quick. 24 times 4. 4 times 4 is 16. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 1 is 9. 96. Well, that makes sense, because if you got like a 24 out of 25 on a test, you did really well. 96 out of 100 would be the same score. So percents are always out of 100. We can now write the percent because it's out of 100. That's going to be 96%. And then to write the decimal, 96 out of 100 is 96 hundredths. 96 hundredths, which would be 96 hundredths as the decimal. Of course, you can always move the decimal point 1, 2 times. Decimal point would go there. And then this one's kind of a stinker because we have to shade in 96. So almost all of them, I guess all of them except for 4. So I'm just going to kind of go through this little square here. I'm going to shade in all of them except for 4. I'm going to leave 4 empty. So for those using a pencil, I apologize. There it is. 96. 96 out of 100. 96%. It's quite a bit. Okie dokie. Okie dokie. So let's try this decimal one, the decimal. 7/10. Well, just by saying the decimal, I already know the fraction. 7/10. So I'm going to write that down. 7/10. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. We can't write this as a percent. This is not 7% because percents are always out of what number? That's correct, 100. So I have to get to 100 here. So we have to multiply this fraction, 7/10, by, you guessed it, 10, because 10 times 10 is 100. 10 times 10 is 100, as I just said. 7 times 10 is 70. Nice, nice. Now we can write it as a percent. And as you can see, like if I take this decimal here, if I annex a 0, you can see here that's also 70 hundredths, which is the same thing as that. So if you ever wanted to do that to a tenth to make it hundredths, you can just annex a 0. 70 out of 100 is 70%. Nice. Then we're going to do a little shading. So the model, we got to shade in 70. I wish these numbers were a little lower, but you know what? That's okay. So we're going to shade in 70 here. There's 40, 50. That's half. We want 70. That's 60. That was pretty good. That was pretty good. So 70 are shaded in, 30 are left unshaded, so that's 70%. Perfect. Feeling good about this. All right, the last one, we only have the model. We only have the model. So let's see here. What we have to do, we'll start with the percent, because this is out of 100. There are 20 in this row and 5 more. So it's 25 out of 100. So that would be 25%. Now, 25% as a fraction, well, percents are always out of what number? That's correct, 100. So to write that as a fraction, it would be 25 out of 100. Now we got to think, can we simplify 25 hundredths? Yes, I believe if we go up to our 9 numbers, what can we divide 25 and 100 by? 1 wouldn't work. Well, 1 would work, but we're not going to do it. 2 wouldn't work because 25 is not even. 4 doesn't go into 25. 5 does. 10 doesn't. 20 doesn't. Well, but 25 does. 25 is one of our magic numbers. So we can divide the top and bottom by 25. Perfect. Perfect. So that will help us do it in one step. We wouldn't have to do it in 2 steps. If we divided by 5, we'd have to do it twice. 25 divided by 25 is 1. 100 divided by 25, if I think quarters, it would be 4. 4 quarters in a dollar, quarters were 25 cents. Now, to write the decimal, what I like to do is read the fraction. 25 hundredths. Well, 25 hundredths as a decimal would be 25 hundredths. The key thing is, to write the decimal, we have to look at the fraction out of 100. Or in the percent, you just move the decimal point twice. 1, 2. Either way, that's how you do it. Okie dokie. Now, let's flip it. Let's flip it. I'm going to give you some tips. If you don't want the tips, pause it now. But what you're going to do is the rest of the page. So if you don't want any tips, you want to try it out on your own. pause it. Don't listen to the tips. If you want the tips, here they come. Here they come. So let me just tell you right off the bat, this is not 12% because percents are not out of 20. They're out of what? They're out of 100. So we'd have to somehow get that to 100 before we write the percent. I'm going to write this up here because the word should be up here. This is going to be percent. We got the fraction. We got the decimal. And we got the mile. So tip for number 5 is you want to get that out of 100 because right now it's not, you can't write that as a percent. For number 6, make sure you count these carefully. You want the exact number. And for this one, my tip would be to start with the percent, then write the fraction and the decimal. That's my tip for number 6. My tip for number 7, I would start by writing the fraction. I would read the decimal, use that to help me write the fraction. You may have to simplify that one. But then that's the first thing I do for this one is write the fraction. The last one, for number 6, remember. The big one here is to remember that percents are always out of 100. So to write that as a fraction, that percent needs to be out of 100. Okay, so try those on your own. We're going to go over the answers in class together tomorrow, or if this is a Friday, Monday. Or Tuesday, I guess. So if you have any questions while you're working, let me know. If not, good luck with this. Take your time. Make sure that you remember that percents are always out of 100. All right. Have a great day, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.